In a bustling New York garage, a 20-year-old black mechanic toils away when a Hell's Angel, tattoo-covered and clad in worn leather, storms inside begging for urgent repairs so he can rush to his injured daughter at the hospital. While the whole shop turns their backs on the man, the young mechanic steps up to assist and gets fired by his manager. What he doesn't realize, the biker is the CEO's brother. What unfolds next will stun everyone. Before we jump into this tale, tell us where you're watching from. We love hearing your thoughts. The morning rush hour in downtown Manhattan hummed like a finely tuned engine. Cars clogged the streets outside the garage at 54th and Lexington, horns honking, construction noise echoing from nearby sites. Inside, fluorescent lights flickered over rows of metal tool chests and cars hoisted into the air. The air smelled of gasoline, burnt coffee, and old rubber. Mechanics lounged lazily, sharing crude jokes and sipping oversized mugs as the morning dragged on. But not Malik. At just 20 years old, Malik stood apart, not just for his youth, but for how hard he worked. His deep brown skin gleamed with sweat despite the morning chill. His close-crop hair and muscular arms told the story of years turning wrenches. His navy blue jumpsuit was stained with grease, his name stitched neatly over his chest. While others chatted or checked phones, Malik lay under a 22 Ford Explorer, fixing a bent axle without a word. People noticed him, but not the way he deserved. "Hey, someone tell Junior to grab my wrench." "Chop chop, rookie," barked a senior tech, tossing a rag toward Malik. Another added with a smirk, "Bet he's good with his hands. Comes from a long line of manual laborers, if you know what I mean." Laughter erupted. No one blinked. Malik clenched his jaw, rolled out from under the truck, and silently walked to the tool wall. This wasn't the first insult, nor the last. Subtle jabs about his age, his skin, and where he was for a routine. The manager stayed quiet unless Malik missed a deadline. Then the yelling started. "Kid," he'd snap in front of customers. Still, Malik pushed forward, not because he liked the treatment, but because he had no choice. His mother worked night shifts at a hospital nearby. Bills didn't pay themselves. Malik harbored big dreams. Maybe someday, owning his own garage, hiring guys like himself. But dreams meant little here. Not when you're young. Not when you're black. This garage ran on hierarchy and unspoken rules, and Malik was always at the bottom, not due to lack of skill. He was likely the sharpest tech around. But every time he stepped up, someone stepped on him. Every time he spoke, a warning followed. So Malik worked quietly, determined, watching, waiting. He had no idea today, an ordinary day, would change everything. It was nearly 10:30 a.m. when a shop door creaked open. The chime above gave a faint ding, drowned out by the buzz of impact wrenches. Nobody looked. Nobody cared. But Malik noticed. From beneath the hood of a Dodge, he caught sight of a large man stepping inside with heavy boots, a worn leather jacket, and thick tattoos creeping up his neck like dark vines. He looked out of place, not because of his clothes, but the way he moved, fast yet cautious, searching or trying not to break something. His face flushed, eyes darting, breathing quick and shallow, not angry but panicked. The words "Hell's Angel" stitched across his jacket drew cold looks. Customers in the waiting area shifted uneasily. A suited man whispered to his wife, "Jesus, what's he doing here?" The biker approached the counter, voice rushed and breathless. "Car died just outside. Need help. My daughter, she had an accident. She's in the ER uptown. I gotta get there fast." His voice cracked, not with anger but desperation. "Please, just a jump or a fix. Whatever gets me moving." The receptionist, Kim, with long nails tapping her phone as she typed, didn't even look up. "Take a seat," she said flatly. "Someone will be with you." "But I don't have time for waiting, sir. Everyone here's got somewhere to be." Behind him, two men in line rolled their eyes. "Should have called an Uber," one muttered. Another customer rose and moved toward the door, whispering, "Don't feel safe with that guy around. Look at him, all tatted up, pacing like a maniac." The biker turned, as if realizing for the first time he wasn't just ignored. He was rejected, labeled a threat. He stepped away, rubbing his face, glancing at the street like deciding whether to run, shout, or cry. He moved toward the door, defeated, fishing his phone out to call a cab. Then a voice cut through the judgmental hum. "Hey, wait up." The biker turned. Malik stood beside a workbench, holding a bottle of water in one hand, wiping his hands on a rag with the other. "What kind of car?" Malik asked, calm as if it were just another job. "A Yamaha Cruiser. Something's wrong with the ignition. Won't crank. Parked right out front." "Cool. Mind if I take a look?" Malik moved toward him without waiting. Offered the water. "You look like hell, man." The biker blinked, hesitated, then took the bottle. "Thanks." "Yeah, my kid. She fell. Internal bleeding or something. The hospital's across town." Malik crouched by the bike, eyes scanning quickly. "I can take a shot at it. Might be something simple. Got time to wait." "Like 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I'll take it," the man whispered. From behind them, a sarcastic voice called out. "Look at Malik playing Captain Save a Biker." Malik didn't turn or answer. He just reached into his toolbox methodically and began working. But inside, his heart thudded, not from fear, but the weight of everything around him. The glares, whispers, and distance, they were all too familiar. He'd lived this since he was old enough to be followed in stores or asked if he really worked here. He wasn't helping this man out of pity. He was helping because he understood. While Malik worked, tension thickened. The biker stayed close, watching, panic-stricken but wary, checking over his shoulder like he expected to be asked to leave again. Other techs ignored them now, but the room buzzed with judgment, a fuse waiting to ignite. Then footsteps, heavy, sharp. Ms. Karen, the shop manager, late 40s, shaved head, permanent scowl like a bad cop audition, spotted the biker, then Malik, then the tools on the floor. "What the hell is this?" she demanded. Malik stood slowly, just helping him out. "Quick fix. I didn't ask for an essay." "Malik, who told you to work on that bike?" "No one, but the guy needs it." Reynolds stepped closer, voice dropping. "He's not a customer. Not officially. You don't work on anything without a ticket. You know that." The biker spoke hesitantly. "I'll pay whatever. Not asking for free." Karen spun to him. "I don't care if you offer a blank check. This is a professional shop. We don't do favors for people who walk in off the street looking like a threat." Malik blinked at that word. Threat. Like it was branded on his forehead. He stepped forward, voice low but firm. "He's not threatening anyone. He's trying to get to his daughter. If this were anyone else..." "Enough," Karen snapped, pointing toward the door. "Back to your bay now." The biker stepped back, ready to leave. "Look, I didn't mean to cause trouble. I'll find another way." Malik didn't move. He looked at Karen, then at the onlookers, the ones who wouldn't help, wouldn't spare a minute. "You're really going to let this man walk out when there are 10 mechanics standing around sipping coffee?" "Malik, I've done double shifts, taken the worst jobs. You told me hard work would get me somewhere here. And the one time I helped someone without asking, you're ready to throw me out." Karen's eyes narrowed, lips curled. "Pack your tools. You're done." Silence. Malik didn't argue. He stared back, not shocked but colder. Acceptance. The biker looked down. "Sorry, kid." Malik shook his head. "Don't be. It's not your fault. They don't see you or me." The biker hesitated, then extended his hand. Malik took it. A brief, solid grip, a shared understanding. Then the man in the leather jacket walked out. Malik stood alone in a room full of people, still invisible. The garage resumed its rhythm after the biker left. Like a rock dropped in a pond, the surface smoothing too fast. Malik stood motionless, the sting of the manager's words raw. Tools clinked, tires hissed with compressed air. No one said a word to him. No pats on the back. Just silence and the unspoken agreement he'd cross a line by standing up for a man like that. He wiped his hands on his jumpsuit and walked back to his bench like a man who hadn't just been fired, but who still had work to do. The tools lay out. The Dodge still waited. But everything felt different. The choice was made. From behind, a tech muttered just loud enough for Malik to hear. "All that for some dirtbag biker vest? Not worth it, bro." Malik didn't answer. His hands stayed steady, but his chest burned, not with regret, but a hard truth. No matter how many hours he worked, how many axles he fixed, or how many times he smiled through the pain, he'd always be the first out the door, the easiest to blame. For 2 years, he'd kept his head down, hoping respect would come. Now he knew respect wasn't given. He heard the manager in the back office, voice sharp and dismissive, probably on the phone bragging about how he handled the situation. Malik pictured it all: the smirk, the self-satisfaction, the complete lack of understanding. He kept working, not stubbornly but instinctively. One bolt, then another. Muscle memory. His thoughts drifted. He pictured the biker fumbling for his phone outside, hoping a cab would come. He imagined the daughter alone in a hospital bed, minutes ticking like hours. The man walked into a room full of people and was treated like a problem. For what? A jacket, tattoos, desperation? Malik had seen that look before, that you don't belong here look. He'd watched his mother ignored at stores, teachers dismiss him, cops drive by when he walked home late. And now someone else suffered the same. But on paper, they shouldn't have anything in common. Yet in that moment, they had everything in common. Yo, Kim called from the desk. You gonna stand there all day? Karen said you're out. Malik looked up. For a second, he wanted to fight, to scream, but what would change? They made up their minds. So he nodded calmly and went to pack. The locker room smelled of old sweat and rubber. Malik opened his locker slowly. The hinges squeaked like they hadn't been oiled in years. He tossed his gloves inside, unzipped his jumpsuit halfway, took a long breath. He wasn't angry, not in the way they expected, or the way solved by yelling or fists. He felt something deeper, a clear kind of calm. Because losing his job for helping someone felt like being himself. Like he'd done something that mattered, even if no one else saw it. As he pulled on his hoodie and packed tools, the door creaked open behind him. Jonas, a newer tech barely a year in, mumbled, "Hey, that was something back there." Malik gave a tired look. "Yeah." Jonas scratched his neck. "I don't know. Guy looked sketchy, but he was in a hurry. Seemed real. Most guys wouldn't have given him a second glance." Malik clicked his toolbox shut. "Yeah, that's the problem." He passed Jonas, boots echoing down the hallway, carrying the weight of every time he swallowed his pride. At the main bay, the floor hummed as usual. Machines, men talking, oil streaking concrete. A world that decided he didn't belong. Karen stood by the counter, clipboard in hand, pretending not to see him. Her jaw was tight. His eyes flicked up just long enough to say, "Don't say anything more." Malik didn't. He pushed the front door open and stepped outside. Cold air hit him. There at the curb stood the biker. He hadn't left. Malik blinked, surprised. "Thought you'd be at the hospital by now." The man nodded. "Just came back. She's stable. Got there in time. Thanks to you." Malik looked, searching for why he came back. The biker's eyes were tired but clear. "Because I've been where you are. Because no one should pay that price for doing right." Malik didn't know what to say, so he said nothing. The biker held out his hand again, firmer this time. Malik shook it. "Name's Ray." Malik smiled faintly. "Well, Malik, if you ever need a job or anything, find me." With that, Ray turned and melted into the city. Taxis, sirens, steel. Malik stood a moment, breathing cold air. He didn't know what was next. No job, no plan. But something had changed. For the first time in a long time, Malik felt like he hadn't just survived the day. He'd chosen who he wanted to be, and that made all the difference. The next morning, the city awoke as usual, sirens bouncing off skyscrapers, steam rising from subway vents, taxis honking impatiently as if the whole world was running late. Malik stood on the corner of 54th and Lexington, gazing up at the familiar glass and concrete shell of the garage. The shop looked unchanged from every morning for the past 2 years, as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't been let go less than a day ago for daring to show kindness to a stranger. His duffel bag hung heavy over one shoulder, packed with essentials: wrenches, a torque gauge, a socket set his uncle had given him when he first started. Tools that had become a part of him. He wasn't sure why he'd come back this morning. Maybe to grab the rest of his things. Maybe to say goodbye. Or maybe just to see it one last time before moving on. Standing there, watching sunlight catch the oil-slicked pavement, he felt like he was peering through glass at a world that no longer included him. He pushed the door open quietly, half expecting someone to shout at him, telling him he didn't belong. But the room barely noticed. Kim typed behind the desk. chewing gum so loudly it popped between words during her phone call. The techs were back at their stations, heads down, the usual banter echoing off the walls, as if yesterday had never happened, as if his voice had never risen, as if his choice had never been made. Malik moved toward the back hallway. No one stopped him. No one looked up. The locker room was cold and dim, lit by a flickering fluorescent bulb buzzing with a tired whine. Malik crouched and opened his locker. The rest of his tools lay neatly arranged in foam trays he'd cut himself to fit. He ran his fingers along the edges of the metal, memories flooding back. Tight spots, long nights. That one afternoon, he rebuilt a whole alternator because the replacement hadn't arrived. He started packing slowly. Outside, laughter broke. Then another voice answered with talk of new rules and cleaning up the place. Malik's shoulders tensed. He knew that tone. They weren't talking about the floor. He zipped the bag closed and sat on the bench longer than necessary. The weight of everything pressed down in that small, quiet space. This place had been more than a job. It was the promise of something more, stability, respect, a future. And now it was gone, because he couldn't keep quiet, because he helped someone who didn't look right. Yet he didn't feel regret, only a raw ache of something heavier. The door creaked. Footsteps approached. He didn't look up. "You here to cause more drama?" Karen's voice was smug, but low, almost cautious. Malik stood and slung the duffel over his shoulder. "Just picking up my things." Karen crossed her arms. "You could have had a solid future here if you learned to follow the rules. You think acting like some social justice hero earns you anything?" "I wasn't trying to be a hero," Malik said calmly, but there was steel beneath his words. "I was trying to be human." Reynolds scoffed. "You millennials think respect's handed out like candy. Newsflash. Nobody cares how good your heart is if you can't follow orders." "I followed every order for 2 years," Malik said, stepping forward. "I worked harder than anyone. Stayed quiet, took the jokes. And you still saw me as disposable." Karen opened her mouth, but Malik walked past, not waiting for an argument. There was nothing left to say. He stepped back into the main shop floor. A few heads turned, not for long, just enough to notice he was there, or maybe notice he wasn't. Kim looked up as he passed the counter. "You forget something?" "No," Malik replied, adjusting his bag. "Just needed to see it one last time." The bell above the door jingled softly as he stepped outside into the crisp morning air. The city bustled around him, people rushing past with coffee cups, barking into phones. Everyone busy being someone. Malik walked for blocks with no destination, past construction sites, delis, dry cleaners, past corners where he and his mom used to wait when she worked nights, and he was still in high school, too scared to sleep until she got home. His feet finally brought him to a park bench across from the hospital Ray had said his daughter was in. He didn't know why he came, maybe to make sure the man had made it, maybe to anchor yesterday in something real. He sat, elbows on knees, watching taxis unload patients, doctors in scrubs sipping energy drinks, parents juggling bags in fear. His phone buzzed once. He pulled it out. A message from Jonas. "They moved someone else into your bay, just so you know." Malik didn't reply. He powered off the phone and slid it into his pocket. He leaned back, letting the sun warm his face. The day was colder than he liked, but for the first time in a long while, he didn't feel small. He felt free, untethered. It was terrifying, but it was honest. Deep inside, a quiet pride stirred. Because in a world that often rewarded cruelty, he had chosen compassion. And even if no one applauded, even if it cost him his paycheck, his schedule, the rhythm of his life, he had done what he knew was right. And that was worth something. Maybe not to the world, but to himself. And for now, that was enough.